what an exciting video last night. I'm sure after Paul Mcbeth's Building the Bag release, there were a few questions that some people might have about some of the discs that were in there. So Wes and I are going to go through real quick and talk to you about some of the drivers that Paul was throwing in his bag. All right, folks, so Wes and I wanted to put together a little treat for you today. And what that is we're going through Paul's Building the Bag, and we're going to talk to you guys a little bit about all the discs that he talked about in his In the Bag. And we're going to tell you our opinion on whether they're going to actually make his bag or not. So we're going to just get right started with you, Wes. Why don't you get us started with, I believe you're covering the Force.
Yeah, the Force is no surprise that he's testing out the Force. The Force is typically the comparison to the Destroyer in the Innova lineup. So here I have a Crystal Force. This one's pretty flat, similar to the ESP ones that he kind of described in his video. I believe these are a 12 speed, so you have the, a little bit wider rim of a high-speed driver, but these are a pretty stable disc, especially for high-speed drivers. We can see in Paul's video he throws these, pretty flatter with a little bit of hyzer, and it looks like these things are traveling all of 4, maybe 450 in the video. So I think the Force is definitely going to make Paul's bag. I think we'll probably see a couple Forces. With their stability, their dependability, I just don't see any way that Paul does not put at least a couple Forces in his bag. So I definitely think that one makes it. Next up in the video, we saw him throwing the Glow Crank. And this one was a little bit of a surprise because cranks are usually kind of understable for the bigger arms like Paul. This crank here is a Big Z crank, one of the cooler graphics. You can see most all of them are pretty flat, and these are, again, a high-speed driver with kind of an understable mid-flight. And for a lot of the pros, some pros might even throw these for backhand rollers, but Paul seemed to be really liking the Glow cranks. Seemed like those were pretty stable for him and pretty dependable, and in the video looked like one of his farthest throwing discs. So I could definitely see the Glow Crank being a situational disc, maybe for some of the West Coast tournaments that are on a ball golf course where things are pretty open. He might throw something like a crank when he doesn't have to worry about a ton of wind or trees, obstacles to get around, when he can just really rip on something. I could see the Glow Crank making it.
Okay, and then next onto the list we had the Nuke. So the Nuke, definitely one of my favorite discs. This is my least stable one, my first run. I think I bag like 4 of these. And I think that it's what we're going to see Paul using for his maximum distance. I think when the same shot that Wes was almost talking about there, where you're seeing him out on a nice ball golf course, where he's going for just a big full pool, and maybe his positioning is not the most important thing, you're going to see him throw these for his big bomber shots. If you haven't tried a Nuke, I suggest you try it. I actually recommend starting out in the Big Z plastic. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to give these away to somebody in the chat. So if you want to comment down below, let me know if you think the Nuke is going to make it into Paul's bag. And then comment whether you would like pink or whether you would like blue. And I'm going to go through the comments because I read them all and I reply to them all. And I'm going to, oh gosh, this could be really bad if we get a million people messaging. I still will try my best to respond to all the comments, but we'll be giving away a blue one, pink one. So again, comment below. Is Paul going to put this in his bag? And your color. And we're going to move on from the Nuke there to, I believe he had the Nuke OS in his bag next.
Yes.
Okay. I have one Nuke OS. This is my most stable disc that I have. I pretty much only use it for forehand rollers. I very rarely throw it in the air. It's pretty much, I'm in a tight spot. I'm in a low ceiling. I've thrown a bad shot on a par 4 and I need to really make up some distance through some stuff. And that's what I use this for. I love just to rip it right down, almost like I'm throwing a thumber or a tomahawk right into the ground and get that distance. But I think we're going to see Paul actually using this disc on very windy days. And I don't know, maybe you'll see it in there for some of his forehand utility shots, because it really does something that's a little bit different that you don't get out of a lot of the other discs.
Yeah, I agree. I could see it even on some wooded courses when he needs to throw some flex forehands and stuff, potentially getting in the bag for some of those utility shots as well. Maybe some of the, your Jonesboro or Idlewild or something like that.
But I agree. It was impressive on how hard he threw that, and with the amount of anhyzer that he put on that thing, and it still just kind of barely moved to the right, little bits of flat, and still just went just as far as the forces went for him.
Beefy disc. Next up, we had the Punisher. Punisher is one of my favorite molds. This one here in particular, nice swirly ESP one, but again, these ESPs are a little flatter. These are kind of a high-speed driver. You hear Paul kind of talk about them being sort of like a beat-in force, and it's a straighter force, really. These have a very straight finish, whereas the force likes to hyzer at the end. You might get a little more distance with the hyzer skip, but if you're looking for pinpoint accuracy, the Punisher is a very similar flight to the force. This is a really interesting one as to if it'll make his bag or not. I think it'll kind of depend on what forces he puts in the bag. If he's got a force already worked in that's really straight, he might not bag the Punisher, but if he loses that force or if he needs something that he is just, is built to finish straighter, I could see him putting a Punisher in the bag. So that one, I'm really iffy on. I'm not quite sure if I want to make it, but I think there's a good chance.
He mentioned it felt good with forehands in his video. I remember what he was talking about. He said it actually felt like really good in his hand for forehands. So
yeah, very straight for forehands and backhands. So I can definitely see it making the bag. It wouldn't surprise me, but that's kind of one that I'm 50-50 on whether it'll sneak in there or not.
Okay. Next
up. Whoop, go ahead, Pat.
I don't remember what one's next.
Oh, next up we got the Vulture.
Okay, so Wes is going to take care of the Vulture.
Yeah, so another one, of course, got a Team Stamp Vulture here, another swirly ESP. The Vulture, I'm nearly certain is going to be in Paul's bag. The Vulture is a stable fairway. I know he was loving the Undertaker, but I think in some scenarios where he needs something with just a little bit more, I think he'll go with the Vulture. We saw the two that he was throwing in his video. You were pretty straight to fade or would hold a slight hyzer for him the whole way and really have great glide. I would expect the Vulture probably over some other discs to take that stable fairway spot and just be that one step up from an Undertaker when he needs something just a little bit more stable.
Hey folks, I'm excited to tell you guys about our next interview that we've got coming up. It's going to be with Team Discraft member Brian Earhart. So make sure you do me a favor, comment down below any questions that you'd like us to ask. Subscribe up top for me if you can do that. And if you can also get that notification bell on. Here's a banger GT. And that's a tree. Okay. So next we go on to, was it the heats?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I got a couple of heats for you here. Understable fairway driver. I think they're around speed 9 or so.
Yep.
If I remember that right. They're usually kind of domey. And we've seen Paul throw this disc in his video yesterday for one shot, and that was for backhand roller. And I think we can all agree by that video is that drive went farther than any other drive that we have seen.
Yeah.
And I think that Paul's just really going to be able to rip these things hard and flat, and it's just naturally going to turn into the angle to get the distance that he's looking for. And I think we're going to definitely see this into his bag, and I think we actually might see some more rollers this year out of Paul.
I think so. It looked that was one of the more impressive shots in the video. I mean, that thing was still cooking when it was up there around the 500 mark, and it looked like it had at least another 100 feet of roll left in it or more. So yeah, I definitely see that one in his bag, and especially again on the West Coast tournaments on the ball golf courses when you're just looking for pure distance. I definitely see that one in there too.
Okay, so we're in agreement on the heat. I like that. All right,
yeah.
Predator was next.
Mantis.
So on to Wes with the Mantis.
Yeah, this was maybe a little bit of a surprise for me, knowing that he loved the Undertakers. I thought he might go with some different plastics in the Undertaker and kind of stick with that, but he was throwing two Mantises and really seemed to like them. He said he liked what MJ could do with them, and judging by the way he threw them, I think the Mantis has a pretty good chance at kind of holding that sort of straight fairway spot in Paul's bag. This one here is a Big Z Mantis. Again, another pretty cool graphic. You'll see these have a slight dome, especially in the Big Z plastic. You'll see a little bit more dome on them. Really a mid speed for a fairway, very comfortable in the hand, and tremendous glide. I think one of the things that was pretty interesting was to see Paul throwing the Mantis almost as far as he was throwing some of the high speed stuff. So the Mantis is just a very glidey, straight mid range, has a very straight finish to it. I do see the Mantis making it in Paul's bag. I think it'll hold down that straight fairway spot over some other molds, and it seemed like he was really loving them.
See, so I'm going to change the order here because I'm going to be in disagreement with you saying that he is going to go with Undertakers. So I'm going to skip the Predator. We will go back to the Predator after this while we're on topic. In the video, now Wes, he said the Undertaker was the straightest fairway driver he had ever thrown.
True.
Straightest fairway driver he had ever thrown. This is definitely what's going to be holding his spot, I think, for any kind of straight fairway shots. I think it's going to take him a little bit to get him beat in so that he could really get him, hyzer flip him to get to turn right a little bit at the end. Yeah. There's where I think we might see that Mantis a little bit more because, the heat I think is too understable, but I think he could really get on a nice beefier run of a Mantis and get that kind of flip up to flat, push, 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 and then slowly tail towards the right. Maybe not just the straight finish, the finish, the understable finish as well.
Yeah.
So, but I think we're definitely going to see Undertakers in there. Mantises are kind of up in the air on me. Again, guys, let us know in the comments what you guys think. Mantises or Undertakers? It's kind of they both almost fill the same slot. Would you agree?
For me, the Mantis is less stable, has a little bit more swing in its mid-flight, whereas the Undertakers are straighter through the mid-flight. But for me, there's no doubt the Undertaker is going to be in his bag. I think he said in the video, those are going to be in his bag. He was really enthused about the Undertaker. You could really hear it in his voice that he was really loving that mold. So no doubt in my mind, the Undertaker's in there for sure. Whether the Mantis will find a spot, like I said, I thought maybe he'd go with some ESP Undertakers over the Mantis, but he seemed to have a good line with the Mantis when he was throwing them.
I think I need to throw a Mantis. I think that's where I'm at on that. It's been a while since I've thrown a Mantis. The Undertaker took me a little bit to really get that shot down in my bag, that nice straight shot. I love it. So I don't know. Maybe I'll try a Mantis.
Yeah,
but let's finish up here with the. Is this the last? No, we have one more disc after this. Probably the biggest surprise disc that we had seen. But Predators, overstable fairways. I think the Predator, Paul threw it. You could just kind of tell by the sound of his voice that it definitely wasn't exactly what he was looking for out of an overstable fairway driver. Would you agree with that? I mean, it's a fantastic disc. I think it's just a little bit faster for what he's used to in that slot.
I think it was, when you compare the Predator and the Vulture, which is where I kind of put them in that stable fairway slot, they fly very similar, but the Predator just doesn't have the glide the Vulture does. The Predator just really wants to get down on the ground. It wants to get into its hyzer, and it'll hold a straight line through its mid-flight, but it doesn't have that straight finish. It definitely has the harder left finish, more of a crash, whereas the Vulture really has a good glide, a good straight finish, still a hyzer finish, but it's not a dump or a crash. It's kind of a smooth hyzer on the Vulture.
Okay, so I'm saying we probably do not see the Predator in Paul's bag. That's kind of my guess on that one. And then the last disc, I don't have one. Did you have one? No,
I don't.
It is the Zombie. I actually used to throw this disc. I don't know. Have you ever thrown one, Wes?
Yeah, I've thrown just about one of everything, but it's probably been a year and a half since I've thrown one, so it's been a long time.
So I actually used to throw Zombies over fairway drivers. This was a while back, but it basically was a longer buzz. As Paul was describing it, is exactly how I describe Zombies to players that are looking for a little more distance than a buzz. And it was just awesome the way that he had described it that same way, because the same flight as a buzz, but you get another 25 feet out of it.
Yeah. Well, you see it in the name too with Zombie, kind of sticking with their mids character, with the buzz, the wasp, the sting. And the Zombie, I believe, was named Zombie because it is, just a longer B, or the buzz, if you will. And so I think Paul really reiterates that. And that was definitely a big surprise for me as well. I think everybody was pretty surprised that Paul was even testing out the zombie. It's not a popular mold. It seemed like a lot more people thought he should be throwing stalkers instead of zombies for kind of that neutral or slightly understable mid. But he seemed to really like it. I don't know. Again, I think that could be a situational disc where when we see some of these more wooded lines at your Jonesboro, your Idlewilds, some of the more technical courses, I think the zombie could come into play. And I think that might be part of the reason he's testing it out.
In the bag? Not in the bag?
I'm going to say situationally in the bag, but not a full-time staple for sure.
Okay. I was more, I don't think it's going to be in the bag. I was surprised to see that he put it with fairway drivers still. I thought maybe that'd be something he would show off a little bit in the mid ranges. So that's kind of the reason that I don't think it's going to be a real contender, because I think the discs that are going to fill that slot, we're going to really see in the mid range slot.
Yeah.
So was that everything we got?
That's everything. Yeah. I mean, I know watching this, I was really excited to see Paul throw in some Discraft to kind of see the next part after the first Jomez hype video. As just a fan of disc golf, Jomez did a fantastic job with that video, as they always do. Really the highest quality in disc golf, and it's really cool to see Paul working with Jomez on this stuff, especially with all of the media controversy that's going on this offseason. It's nice to see Jomez highlighted, and their incredible work highlighted as well with the best player in disc golf.
All right, and I think that about wraps it up then. So thanks again to Jomez for doing the video, obviously. Thanks to Wes for coming on here with us. Thanks to Paul for showing off some of that awesome Discraft plastic. That nuke that he threw, that orange swirl one that was like a fireball, that was pretty awesome to see. So stay tuned for more content, guys. Thank you so much for the support. As always, we love you. Peace out.